All right, so this is our first um, essay that we're going to write from scratch that is based on a literary work or historical source. Um, Gutenberg.org has Walt Whitman's Drum Taps, among many other amazing books. Uh, we're going to do First O Songs for a Prelude. I had a really great instructor. I believe she was a PhD student when I took her class. Um, in undergrad, way back in the day, um, instructor Keeley, or Professor Keeley. I would call her a professor. She was amazing. Um, I looked her up though. Couldn't find her. I don't know if she left education or I don't know. I'll keep looking her up. I'll find her. But she was awesome. Anyways, I wrote this essay for her class, and it was on this poem. And I ended up getting it published in the undergraduate literary sort of creative journal called West Winds way back in the day. This is like 15, 20 years ago. Um, and yeah, and it was just an awesome class. It was a Civil War lit class. And I'm going to try to remanufacture that essay, even though it was years ago. Who knows? Maybe I'll write a better one. That has happened to me before, where I've lost essays or I've misplaced a disc or whatever. When we used to have 3.5, 5 1/4, 3.5 inch. I mean, we used to have discs. Um, Hilarious. I'm definitely aging myself, but um, yeah, it was an awesome class, and yeah, so I want to recreate that essay. I think it might not be as good, but who knows? Maybe it'll be better. That distance and more life experience and a little bit more objectivity and maybe some clarity. And I've been, you know, like who knows? It might be better, or at least in the same category in terms of quality. But yeah, I definitely want to write um, an essay, a research essay, a literary essay based on First O Songs for a Prelude, Walt Whitman, drum taps. And so I highly recommend you guys read this. The link is going to be in the video. In all of the videos, I'm going to have the link, the Gutenberg.org link, so you can check this out, read it, take notes, whatever you do in the sense of notes with regards to watching these videos and hopefully getting some good insights and tidbits that will help with regards to writing quality essays and communicating clearly and cogently in this format. A lot of English majors, history majors as well, a lot of social science and humanities majors. Some of them, not a lot, I don't know the stats, but plenty become lawyers, go into law because you've spent a lot of time and hours reading material, distilling the material, and then sort of crafting an argument. And that's what law is, right? When you're communicating with a judge or you're communicating with a jury, you're sort of, you know, crafting a logical argument and trying to persuade someone to believe you, essentially, and to believe that your client is innocent or that their client is guilty, etc. Um, so yeah, let's just look at this in our first video. Let's just go over. So first whole songs for prelude, lightly strike. So look at the phrases: lightly strike, pride and joy in my city. So it's very positive, right? Very effusive. And knowing a little bit about Walt Whitman, you guys know he was just very. His language was flamboyant. His language was positive and very poetic. I mean, he's like the poet's poet. I mean, just he's the reason why people talk about poetry. Um, he was just like a lot of times just very effusive and Americana, and that's yeah. But this poem is no exception. Pride and joy, city. How she laid the rest to arms. How she gave the cue. So it was a cue. So the city, Manhattan. How it once with live limbs. So there's we could talk about sort of alliteration. We talk about some literary terms, literary methods and tools that show up in a lot of poetry and writing that we can connect to. Onomatopoeia. Crash, bang, zip, buzz, alliteration. Live limbs, etc. That yeah, so we might talk about that. Oh, strongest you in the hour of danger, in crisis. So it's like pointing a spotlight at the fact that Manhattan is strong when there's danger. So it's like being very positive and supportive about strength. Oh, truer than steel. Ooh, okay. How you sprang, how you threw off the costumes of peace with indifferent hand. So costumes, what does that imply? A costume, like you're acting, like you're pretending, like it's not real, like it's artifice, right? The costumes of peace. So this seems kind of pro-war already, and it's called drum taps. I mean, and some, some professors, some schools, some departments at universities or high schools or colleges. I mean, they might have different philosophies in terms of writing. And some teachers are really strict. They want you to talk about the author's life when you explicate a poem, for example, or when you write a literary essay. Or they want you to include, some of the stuff that they lecture on. I usually do. I think it's, respectful, and it's not abnormal to, because they're not talking because they're bored. I mean, they've done a lot of research, and they've spent a good percent of their adult lives like learning about these different topics. So I definitely concede them plenty of respect in that regards. But I also try to bring something new and fresh that maybe they haven't thought of, or that maybe they haven't talked about in class. Something unique. Because I want to bring something new and fresh to all my essays, something new and fresh to all my tests, finals. I try to surprise them and to wow them. So I want to show them that I'm listening, and this is really helpful in terms of grades, just in general, playing the game in terms of grades. And I call it a game because it's something where there are rules, and if if you want to score high marks, I highly recommend just taking really good notes and including some of the epiphanies and the observations and analysis, literary analysis that your professor, instructor shares with you, but also trying to come up with new and fresh ideas that add to their analysis. That's generally the best recipe for performing well. Obviously, you don't want to just like kowtow to your professor. I mean, if you really feel different and you want to go, head up, um, you know, most definitely. So I know there's a gentleman. He's a sort of a pundit. He's like a political, uh, sort of on the right. He's more on the right than left, but he's a Harvard-educated political young pundit named Ben Shapiro, and he talks about in his speeches that he played the game in the sense of he gave the professors what they wanted to hear, you know, um, in class, and then for his test he would go against them because I think they were like far left, and I don't want to talk politics, but I'm just saying like that was he was playing the game. He went after trying to garner good grades, and I was definitely in the camp of understanding the right way to try to garner to earn high high mark. So I'll give you guys, I'll share a lot of my insights as well as we go along with these videos and stuff. But let's talk about these words. So how you sprang, how you threw off the costumes of peace with indifferent hand, how your soft opera music changed and drum and fife were heard in their stead. So instead of the soft music, it was drum and fife. How you led to the war that shall serve for our prelude, songs of soldiers. So again, our prelude. So we're sort of getting a lot of evidence that he's celebrating this war. He's celebrating, throwing off the costumes of peace. How Manhattan drum taps led, and remember the title of this poem, this long poem, is called Drum Taps. So Manhattan led the drum taps, and he's from New York. But so what I was going to say was that you might, in this class, in most of my classes, lit classes, I didn't have to talk about the author's life at all. I kept it very siloed. I just focused on the context, the explicit content. I didn't bring in things that I knew about the author's life. And there's some professors that follow that or think it's okay, to have that. And then there's others who really try to include all of it. And they say, go out and do research on this author's life and read the context and think about the implicit and think about this and think about that. And there are others that are, very open to either analysis. So what I normally do, though, just because I'm not going to say it's easier, but generally it is. It's less unwieldy. When I'm putting together a thesis statement and I'm putting together paragraphs and I'm writing the essay, it's way easier just to focus on the explicit, stated context of the poem or the play or the scene, etc. Rather than go do a bunch of research and to find out. It wasn't that I was lazy. No, on the contrary. I read lots and lots and lots, and I was definitely pretty nerdish. Some might not have said I was nerdish, but I definitely was. But in that case, there's plenty of work that I'm going to have to do in terms of writing a really good essay and making sure it's solid enough to get out to earn a high mark. But that was just extra work, and I was like, you know what, I'm already doing plenty of work just focusing on the content. Plus it really strengthens that muscle of just looking at what the context shows you, even if you didn't know anything about this author, anything about what they're talking about, even anything about this time period, this era. Can you pull enough out of it to make a really strong, cogent, persuasive argument? And that seems to be the thesis right now. 40 years in my city seen soldiers parading. 40 years is a pageant, so it's like a show. It's not real, it's a show. So for 40 years, it seems like it was peaceful. With a clenched hand the pavement, a shock the night sustained it. Loped they tumultuous and low Manhattan arming to the drum champs. And then he names all these young men, mechanics, lawyer, driver, salesman, all of them arming, and he's celebrating this. And it's like a list, but it's a celebratory list. Pass through the city, embark from the wharves, how good they look. He's talking about how good they look. There's kissing. The mother kisses the son kisses the mother. Unpent enthusiasm. It's just joyous, raucous, joyous. Silent cannons, bright as gold. I mean, superlative language. I mean, he's a true poet's poet. I think there's a lot of, and then even when they talk about blood, it's like the red business. Soon unlimbered to begin the red business. That's war. That's people dying. But he's just in two short, sort of unemotional, frenzied words. It's very clinical. The red business. I think it's very, 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 very pro-war. It's definitely collective. The women volunteering for nurses, no mere parade now. So it's not a mere parade now. We're not acting now. We're not just dressing up as nurses, or we don't just have bandages at the store or in our kitchens in our houses. This is really happening. Now we're using this labor. These nurses are out there working and trying to fix the bloody soldiers, etc. And it's no mere parade now. It's kind of like implying that in peace it's fake It's just a parade. It's just a show. But war is the real nature of the city of Manhattan. And an armed race is advancing. Think about advancing. It's advancing literally, but also maybe advancing like metaphorically, like the race of people is now advancing. This is the Civil War, but just the good people who are fighting in the Civil War are now advancing in life, and they're climbing up, etc. The gun's bright as gold. Again, the work for giants. He's saying that war and all this is the work for giants. Unlimber them. Unlimber these guns. Unlimber the soldiers. Like they're being weighted down by all these bullets. Like let's get rid of the bullets. Like he's like it's kind of being kind of flip, but in a very poetic way. Unlimber them. It's been 40 years essentially, just like courtesying and pomp and just parades and just fake, like it's theater, like peace is theater. And then he really drives it home. And you lady of ships, you Manhattan, old matron of this proud, friendly, turbulent city, often in peace and wealth you were pensive, right, which is thoughtful, or covertly frowned. It means you were like frowning, like not smiling amid all your children. But now you smile with joy, exulting old Manhattan. So now the war, the collective nature of war, that this war is bringing all the people together in Manhattan. Yeah, I think there's plenty here for a 4 to 7 page paper, double spaced, 12 font, Times New Roman or Courier. Yeah, I definitely want to get started with this. But yeah, this is sort of, sometimes it's not obvious. Sometimes you got to read poems over and over and over again. This is very, very clear, and I think this is not going to be too difficult to write an essay on. So yeah, until the next time. Thanks, guys.